A chance encounter that changed everything. In the scorching summer of 2023, a Hollywood A-lister and a struggling pregnant woman crossed paths in the most unexpected way. Rock, known for his generosity, was driving through a quiet neighborhood in Austin, Texas, when he spotted a small lemonade stand. What caught his attention wasn't the stand itself, but the woman running it, a visibly pregnant young woman with a sign that read, "Lemonade for Hope." Intrigued, Rock parked his car and approached her, immediately sensing something deeper behind her determined eyes. Her name was Emily, a 29-year-old teacher who had taken a leave of absence from her job. Despite her warm smile, she looked exhausted, her hands trembling slightly as she poured lemonade for passers-by. As Rock took a sip from the glass she handed him, he noticed her shaking hands. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Emily hesitated before finally admitting, "I'm just trying to raise money." Her voice cracked with emotion, and Rock knew there was more to the story. As they talked, she revealed that her husband, Ryan, had been diagnosed with a rare illness 3 months earlier. Their insurance had refused to cover the only experimental treatment that offered him a chance at survival. With a baby on the way, Emily was doing whatever she could to keep her family together, even if it meant selling lemonade on the side of the road. Rock listened intently, his expression unreadable yet compassionate. Learning that Emily and Ryan had been high school sweethearts who had worked tirelessly to build their dream home, he couldn't help but think of his own past, his late partner, Jennifer Sim, and their stillborn daughter. He understood grief and the desperate measures people take for love. Without saying much, Rock ordered another lemonade, slipping a few bills into her donation jar. Emily didn't realize until later that he had left $5,000 in cash. But that wasn't the end of it. An act of kindness that changed a life. That evening, Rock couldn't stop thinking about Emily and her struggle. He called his assistant, asking them to gather details about Ryan's condition and the treatment he needed. The next day, Rock returned, but this time he wasn't alone. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily saw him approaching again, flanked by two men in business suits. "Emily," Rock began, his voice calm but urgent, "I've been thinking about what you told me yesterday." Emily tensed, not wanting to be a burden. "I hope I didn't trouble you. You've already done so much." Rock shook his head. "Sometimes we cross paths with people for a reason, and I think I was meant to meet you." The two men stepped forward. One was Dr. Harris, a specialist in experimental medicine, and the other was a legal advocate. They handed Emily a folder containing documents showing that Rock had paid for Ryan's entire treatment in full, every penny. Emily was speechless, tears streaming down her face as she clutched the papers. I, I don't know what to say." Rock placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're saving your family. I just wanted to help." But Rock didn't stop there. After learning that Emily and Ryan were about to lose their home, he arranged for their mortgage to be covered for an entire year. "Your family deserves a safe place to grow," he explained. Emily tried to refuse such generosity, but Rock simply said, "I've had my share of dark days. If I can make things a little brighter for someone else, I want to do it." A bond that grew stronger. As weeks passed, Ryan began his treatment. Though the road was uncertain, they now had hope, something they had almost lost. Rock continued to check in on them, sometimes bringing groceries or just stopping by for a chat. A bond formed, not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. One evening, as they sat in Emily's backyard, she finally asked, "Why do you care so much?" "You could have just walked away." Rock gazed at her thoughtfully before answering. "Because I know what it's like to feel helpless, to watch someone you love slip away and not know how to stop it. I didn't want you to go through that alone. Emily nodded, tears in her eyes. You've done more for us than we could ever repay. You don't need to repay me, Rock said. Just promise me that when you're in a position to help someone else, you won't hesitate. She smiled, her heart swelling with hope for the first time in months. I promise. A new chapter months later, Ryan made a remarkable recovery. Just in time for the birth of their daughter, Grace, Rock was there, standing quietly in the corner as Ryan held his baby girl for the first time, tears streaming down his face. Emily looked over at Rock. We couldn't have done this without you. Rock shook his head. You didn't need me. You just needed someone to remind you how strong you are. But just when they thought their struggles were over, another challenge arrived. Medical debt had piled up, threatening to take everything from them again. Emily tried to handle it on her own, not wanting to ask Rock for more help. But unbeknownst to her, he had already set a plan in motion. One evening, he arrived at their doorstep with a file in hand. Inside were documents transferring ownership of a small bookstore in Austin, a gift he had arranged for them. I remember you saying you always wanted a place where stories could live, Rock said with a smile. Now you have one. Emily was overwhelmed. A bookstore? She whispered, barely believing it. It's yours, Rock said. A fresh start. A place to write the next chapter of your lives. And so, the little bookstore in Austin became more than just a shop. It became a haven for love, resilience, and second chances. Rock, once a stranger, had become family. A reminder that sometimes the most profound stories aren't found in books. They're written in the hearts of those who refuse to give up on each other. Because in the end, this wasn't just a story of survival. It was a story of love, hope, and the unbreakable connections that make life worth living.